little bit more in the World Series if people are watching, but it's a who's who of who is what it is. They're all from Whoville, okay?
That's right. Yeah.
Cindy Lou Who is looking up to them, and their heart is growing 7 times, larger because of that. The Rangers make sense to a degree. The Phillies make sense. The Dodgers make sense. Like, this Diamondbacks team has $116 million opening day payroll and 142 collective bargaining 40-man tax payroll. So the 40-man taxable payroll is $142 million. They beat the Phillies that have a $243 million opening day payroll, and their taxable payroll is $263. They beat the Dodgers that had a $223 opening day payroll. Their 40-man is $267. They're $120 million less than the two teams they just beat in the playoffs. The Royals, by the way, their 40-man taxable payroll is $112. So it's about $30 million less than the Diamondbacks. But they also didn't go out and acquire players at midseason and take on extra payroll or anything like that.
Theoretically, a jump that John Sherman has said he'll be ready to make when the time comes. Theoretically.
Look, if 112 to 142 is what it takes and putting things, then John Sherman is required and obligated to do that.
Yes.
I don't think that's all it's going to take. No. But the Rangers are not the example. It's the Diamondbacks with drafting and trading and spending wisely outside of Bumgarner. But I sort of understand that, you sign him to a deal, you feel like he's going to help you take the next step. A number of years ago, it didn't work out. But they've made a couple of pretty good trades. They traded Dalton Varsho for Gabriel Marino. They traded a catcher they had on their team for a prospect catcher who's been awesome and is now their number 3 hitter in Marino as a catcher and who's been great behind the plate as well. Jazz Chisholm was a top 60 prospect in all of baseball, and they traded him for Zach Gallen in 2019. They traded that guy for a guy that now is 27 years old and Zach Gallen. That's a wise trade because Zach Gallen has been huge for them. Brandon Pfaadt, they took him in the 5th round in the 2020 draft. I mean, they've got a number of guys that they have drafted. They've got a number of guys they've traded for, and they haven't spent a lot of money in free agency. Like, they've drafted 6 players on this. I went through the top 20. I didn't go through the entire. I'm not going to go through the entire roster because there are guys that aren't playing. Like, I know we loved, not Dyson, but who's the other smaller speedster? Gore. We love Terrence Gore. But I'm not looking at Terrence Gore. How did the Royals acquire Terrence Gore so they can win the World Series?
Right.
Yeah, I don't care.
Right.
He was awesome. He was great.
Yep.
He'll always be remembered here. But he's not why they won the World Series.
Right.
He was fun, but not why they won. They won because of the nucleus, the core, and all of that stuff. So I looked at 20 players. 6 of them were drafted. 7 of them were trades. 1 international free agent. 5 free agents and 1 waiver claim. The waiver claim is Christian Walker. But those 5 free agents that are the main parts of this roster right now that'll be playing in the World Series, those 5 free agents, the total value of their contracts, those 5 free agents, is $27 million.
Oh, man.
The Rangers free
That's
agents,
a great stat.
total value is $625. You get to $150 million when you throw in Madison Bumgarner, Nick Ahmed, and Mark Melanson's contracts. Then it goes up to $150 total value contract with free agents. But those guys aren't on this roster right now that is playing in the World Series. The Rangers at $625. If you throw in DeGrom, it goes to $810. But take out DeGrom because he's not playing in this. It's still $625 to $27 million. That's the free agent contracts of the top 20 players on this roster, those that are making a difference in some way. There's your blueprint, if you can do it. But you got to find a team. You got to have them playing great baseball together, and you got to just find that it. Because the Royals had that it in 14 and 15. And this is a Diamondbacks team that they were not just gangbusters all season long. They lost 4 in a row to end the season, barely made it into the playoffs by a game. They were scoreboard watching because their scoreboard was losing. And from July 2nd to August 11th, they went 7 and 25.
God.
This team's playing in the World Series.
Unbelievable.
And in 32 games, they went 7 and 25. They went from up 3 in the division to 12 and a half back in that stretch, and then lost 4 in a row to end the season, and they're now 9-3 in the postseason.
One other little lesson it can be, if you can get to the playoffs, maybe it's worth it. It has long for me been a minor frustration. The further you get away, the better. But of like, oh man, those years spent kind of toiling right at 500 for the Royals were frustrating because you didn't take a chance to try to jumpstart what you're going to do next. There are a lot of details in that we've talked about some, so I'm working on letting it go. That's what therapy's for. But right now, especially, if you just can play a postseason game, the entire road to the World Series is out there in front of you. The other little spot that the Diamondbacks last night in particular reminded me so much of those 14-15 Royals is you get late in the game and you say, oh, here comes the bullpen. Here comes a way to shorten this game.
Yep.
And then you get some dude named Ginkle out here slicing dudes in half. One of the most clutch pitching outings I have seen in a very long time.
The 8th inning was just absurd.
And it made me think